Hello, folks, and welcome back to Afrl's Virtual Town Hall series. I'm Kenneth McNulty, and I'm your host for today. We are joined by our commander, Brigadier General Heather Pringle, and our command chief, Chief Master Sergeant Kennon Arnold. Today, I'll be reading off a list of questions lumped together for continuity for our leadership to answer to further give us further insight on what's going on in and around the Afrl enterprise. So without further ado, I open up the floor to General Pringle for opening remarks.
Happy holidays, Afrl, and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to take the time to connect with you. And boy, it's the end of 2020, and we really need to connect because I need to let you know how much I care about you, how much that we are thinking about you each and every day. Even in the midst of a global pandemic, even in the midst of all this change, everything that we are doing is to take care of you, try and meet your needs, and to ensure that we get our amazing mission accomplished. And boy, what an exciting and dynamic year it's been, and we have so much to talk about. I'm really looking forward to your questions today. This pandemic, as you know, has been really difficult on all of us, and it's important that we continue to reach out and connect like we are today. I want you to remain vigilant even as we're going forward, and talking about all the important things today, and I hope that you will continue to stay safe. I'm extremely proud of all that you have accomplished in 2020. Some of the things that this command has been able to accomplish include Geek Fest, Hackasack, the Space Science Summit, the EpiLab. In fact, just yesterday achieved over 200,000 specimens processed in a single day. At the beginning of 2020, who would have thought that they could have processed such a volume at that rate? Truly an amazing feat. Well done, EpiLab. We are in the process of transferring positions to the United States Space Force, and we're about to celebrate the one-year anniversary of the stand-up of the Space Force as well. Here in Afrl, we established a Deputy Technology Executive Officer, Dr. Kelly Hammett, and that's been really great for us consolidating our space science and technology. We've done a lot to support the Space Force this year, and I'll talk more a little bit about that later, but boy, it's really been all in from Afrl, from all of you, and I couldn't be prouder of how much you have accomplished this year. And that's all in the middle of this global pandemic and how much you've accomplished. I am extremely proud of everything that you have done to get the mission accomplished, whether you're geographically distributed, you're connecting virtually, or supporting the nation's response to COVID-19 like we talked about with the EpiLab, or even the DPA Title III personnel who have awarded so many contracts and processed so much funding that is needed to keep our industrial base alive and thriving in the midst of changes in their business markets. We've also been able to connect in a wide variety of ways, and we've talked about what our vision is for the Air Force Research Lab and what our top priorities are going to be going forward. Of course, you know the challenges that we face as a nation and as a research lab. We know that the pace of technology has increased. It's changing fast, and we have to keep up. We know that our competitors are working hard to become the world leaders in science and technology. We know the global competition for talent is significant and something that we need to keep in mind as a research lab. And there's so much going on in the world that affects us today, that it was really important for us to focus on 3 priorities in response to these significant challenges. You all know the first challenge is to accelerate the 2030 S&T strategy, the one that was laid out by Secretary Wilson in April of 2019. It's still our guiding light to deliver transformational capabilities to the warfighter. And so, in line with General Brown's guidance to accelerate, change, or lose, we need to accelerate our implementation of the 2030 strategy. And I know you've done so much to achieve all that. In addition, the second priority is to be one AFRL for 2 services. We can't do enough to support the United States Space Force and their implementation of their service and to meet the unique needs of this warfighting domain. It's different than what we've been doing in the air domain. And even though you've been accomplishing a lot of space, science, and technology over the years, and frankly, over the decades, there are new opportunities with this service to get even more accomplished in new and innovative ways. And last, but not at all the least, our third priority is to lead the best AFRL team. And as I mentioned, we care so much about you. We can't do enough to support you. We want to give you the digital tools you need to stay connected, to collaborate across the directorates, as well as to innovate in the way that you really need to. So there's a lot to focus on in terms of our workforce initiatives, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But of course, we've taken a lot of action in 2020. We've met the challenges head on. We found new solutions. And I know you're looking forward to 2021 and all the new opportunities that will bring as well, such as gaining new speed with our vanguards or doing more to institutionalize AFRL RG, also known as Afworks, into our AFRL family. I'm more than confident in each and every one of you that 2021 will be better than ever. It's truly an honor to serve with you, to work alongside you, and to do whatever we can up here at AFRL to help you get the job done. So I hope that you will stay strong, stay healthy, and stay well. And I'll turn it over to the Chief for some comments.
Well, thank you, ma'am. And what an honor it is for me to be here with you today and to be able to sit on the platform here and answer questions from our force, see what's on your mind, and just listen to you and take in what you have for us so that we can hopefully make things better for you in this next new year. I just want to start off by just saying thank you to the team that set all this up. And if you notice a nice table with our surprise visit from the elf here, who is obviously wearing his mask, so that's goodness. And we appreciate everyone that set this up and took time. And thank you, Kenneth, for being here to ask the questions and to sort through them. So before we start, I just want to acknowledge also that tomorrow is not a work day, obviously, for most of us, but it is General Pringle's birthday. And so I know if you're like me, it's the anniversary of your 30th year, your 30th birthday. And every year those anniversaries get bigger and bigger. But I just wanted to say happy birthday to you.
Thanks,
and
Chief.
I hope that next year is your best year yet.
Me too.
So obviously it's been a long year, right? It's been such an eventful year. So many things have happened. And I would just say, if you think about where you were last year at this time and where we are now, how the world has changed, how we have changed, how our AFRL has changed, and our Air Force and Space Force has changed. And so those times, obviously, I could sit here and go through a big list of all the things that has made this year a tough year for many of us. And I just want to say that in those disruptive times comes times of opportunities. And so I'd ask for you all to look for those opportunities. There's plenty of them out there for us to be our best and to succeed and to help others and to find ways to pull some along and push others along and to be able to be optimistic about where we're going in the future, because our future is definitely bright. There's so many good things that have happened this year, so many good things that have opened our eyes to so much more that our AFRL can provide to our Air Force and our Space Force. Some of the things that have happened here recently that I want to make sure that, I don't know if questions will come about it, but some of the things that have happened here recently, a lot has happened actually, but one was the tuition assistance has been re-implemented. And so what had happened, and a force obviously like AFRL, where education is right at the top of the list, the Air Force and the United States military actually had cut our tuition assistance, had to decrease it some. And that's because so many people were taking the opportunity to use military TA to their benefit during the time where we were obviously quarantined and that we were in a time where we were teleworking, working from home, and we had this extra time, some of us did, to work on education. And so it was so well taken advantage of that we depleted the pot of money that we were using. So we had announced back in October that we were going to have to cut TA for this next year, but we were able to find that extra money. The Air Force was able to find that extra money, and we re-implemented the $4,500 max limit, which is $250 per credit for our folks to be able to continue the education. And so that's goodness. That is really good. And so I wanted to make sure that everyone heard that and everyone knew that, so that we could still encourage education and it can still be paid for, and we can progress that way. So like I said, this year has obviously had a lot going on, and we have to encourage each other, and we have encouraged each other. And obviously we want to care enough that it hurts. A lot of you have heard me talk about that, which I stole from an old chief of staff, Chief Welsh, who has retired a few years ago, used to say, care enough that it hurts. And so basically what that means is do more than just ask, how are you doing today? Step out of your comfort zone. Find those opportunities to show people that you care and help people along. So I look forward to your questions. I thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And Kenneth, over to you.
Before we really kick into things, I'd like to speak on behalf of the AFRL Enterprise and our fans. Happy birthday, General Pringle, or tomorrow, happy birthday. So,
thank you.
And thank you both for your inspiring words. That's a great way to start things off here, and I'm sure the people are feeling energized and ready for questions. So as we mentioned beforehand, a lot of these will be lumped for continuity or grouped together, and we'll be starting off with questions surrounding COVID-19. So the first question we have, General Pringle, is with regard to COVID-19 and its effects over the past 8 months, how do you think it has affected the AFRL mission?
That's a really good question, Kenneth, or anonymous in the audience, whoever asked it. So I have to say how proud I am of the AFRL team and what you have done to jump to the response of COVID-19, whether it's in your daily duties or in a direct support to the nation's response to COVID-19, continuing the mission or adapting to what you need to get done because of what this pandemic has caused us to do, right? We can't have many people in a room, and every location has been different. You have to understand what's going on at the local levels, and I couldn't be prouder of what AFRL has done. One really good example that I like to bring up is the Telework Opportunities that we've instituted in AFRL. This certainly preceded my arrival here, but I'm really, really proud to hear about all that you've accomplished with that. It was going to be a pilot study on telework policies right before the March timeframe. They were going to implement this in a very small way with just a few people, look at how it worked, measure it, get results, and then scale it up to the rest of AFRL. Of course, with COVID-19 And so many of us needed to get out of the workforce, not be in close contact with each other. The telework policies were implemented Afrl wide, and we've gotten our social networking, social digital connectivity has improved over that time. I know a lot of you are using Teams. I think today we're using Zoom and Google Suite, and I'm sure, like me, a lot of you have downloaded a whole host of social networking tools to help you get the job done. And you've done it so well because you know which tools are best suited to control technical information, which ones are best suited for collaborating with industry or with your academic partners. You've been able to adapt across all these different mediums to get the job done. Of course, I have to do another shout out to the Epi Lab for all their hard work in processing samples for all of DoD. They not only met the bar that was asked of them, but they raised the bar and got so much more done. They are really instrumental for us understanding who has the virus, who does not have the virus, as well as all the other missions and things that were carried forward. So, Chief, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
That was great, ma'am. I just, the shout out to all of you that have done played such an important role to make this a success. I mean, it's become a success story. All the great things, the great actions that you all have done. So just thank you.
Before we continue, I'd like to tell the audience as well, if you have any questions that pop up in your mind, please feel free to list them on our live stream currently on Facebook, and we'll make sure to get to them if we have the time at the end of the stream, and if not, our team can always address it after this concludes. The next question we have, Chief Arnold, is COVID-19 cases are now increasing in several states to record levels. What should Afrl employees do to continue to keep themselves safe?
That's a great question. And so, first and foremost, I would say we take care of each other, right? And how we do that in a COVID era is obviously a little different than how we may have done that pre-COVID and before this epidemic hit. And so taking care of each other, checking in on each other, making sure spirits are high, making sure that folks are optimistic about, like I said, about the future and about what's going on in the world and what's going on in their state, in their community. But also I would encourage everyone to really, really pay attention to what your community, whether it's the base or your state or your county rules are, and make sure you're following those rules. Obviously, we know wearing face masks and social distancing, and when we are sick, not come to work or not go around other folks. And so, what I'd say is following the rules. Do your best to follow those rules. I know it's hard. I know it's hard during a time where we want to gather with folks and we want to hug people. I want to just as bad as everybody else. And I say just follow the rules the best that you can. Do your part, but also for all of us. And it's not just a director or a commander rule or that they need to check on our folks. Anyone can check, right? If your wingman or the person that typically works across the hall or across the cubicle is not doing good, you can call and check on them and see how things are going. And so to motivate them, to help people get through this time, and also to follow the rules, I would say is some of the biggest things. Ma'am?
Thanks, Chief. What I was going to say is, even as we're staying apart physically, let's absolutely stay connected socially. If you can imagine, we're still onboarding individuals into Afrl, and how can they navigate knowing who to connect with, how to ask questions, and it's important that we reach out and talk to the new people, the new arrivals, and folks that you've known for years and years as well, because all of us are feeling the pressure of being geographically apart, of homeschooling our kids, of not being able to drive in and have everything accessible in the office environment. It's totally different. It's changed. We have successfully adapted, but we need to do a great job of reaching out and connecting with each other, checking on our wingmen, our space professionals, and going above and beyond in staying connected, because silence isn't golden in this case. We absolutely need to reach out and phone a friend.
So I would also like to say that there are lots of examples of you all doing that. And I just received an email yesterday on one of our airmen taking care of somebody else and they didn't work together. They weren't even at the same location, but they were taking care of one another. And it was extremely encouraging to me to see that we were connecting and the dots were lining up and people were really looking out for each other. And so I just want to say I appreciate what you guys are doing right now, each and every day. We just need to continue to do that and even more.
General Pringle, can you review information about flexible work hours and telework for employees who are having to manage their children's school situations this fall due to COVID-19? Can you elaborate on what this entails and how it affects Afrl employees?
Absolutely. Well, first, I'm really proud of what DP, our personnelist professionals, have done in implementing these policies. And I'd also say your first stop should be your supervisor, because teleworking is not an entitlement, it is a benefit. And so it has to work for the mission that you are to accomplish, but it's a wonderful tool to allow you flexibility to manage that work-life balance, or to manage the safety and health of you and your family and your loved ones, because we can accommodate those kinds of new challenges that have arisen. Some families, for example, have at-risk, higher risk family members, and so we want to make sure that we're not putting you or your family at a higher risk. Some of the policies that we have include flex work, Maxiflex. For example, it allows you to work your 8-hour days, for example, but you can, as long as you work the core hours, you can shift the start or the finish time. We have some policies where you can work 9 days for longer hours and you get the 10th day off. Or even the Maxiflex, where as long as you meet the 80 hours in the 2 work weeks put together, you can stack those up in any way that are possible. But again, this is something that you need to work out with your supervisor, and our advice is to encourage the maximum flexibility possible to support you and your family needs, because these are extraordinary times. They are different than anything we've ever faced, and so are the challenges that come with it. Anything you want to add, Chief?
You said it all, ma'am. I just, I'm just blown away with the flexibility that our supervisors and our commanders have been able to work around these niches and these the issues of every single person that they might have, because every single person is unique and every person's situation is unique. And so I know that we're going to work with you. We want to make sure that you're highly productive and that you are able to do your job, but also we want you to obviously take care of your families as well. So we're going to work with you. And so if one of these programs don't exactly match or don't exactly get after the need that you have, I would say, just like General Pringle said, bring that up. Make sure that your supervisor and that your director, commander knows about those.
Because maybe there's a new policy that we haven't implemented yet that would serve you better. And so do raise those issues up so that we can try something new. Thanks, Kenneth.
Chief Arnold, do you see Afrl continuing with increased telework even after COVID-19 subsides?
Well, Good question, Kenneth. I would say listening to AFMC Commander General Bunch, he's talked about this quite a bit, that the pre-COVID world that we lived in is not what we should expect when we eventually get through this and we get back to what the post-COVID norm looks like. And so I do think that a lot of those teleworking rules and things will still be in place. I'm sure that we'll manage them appropriately, and I'm sure that'll is yet to be seen exactly how we'll do that. But I don't believe, listening to our leaders, I don't believe that we'll go back to how it once was. It's just too, this is great. In some ways, it's really great. We've been able to tap into some talent that we typically might not have been able to because of teleworking. We've been able to obviously save tons, and when it comes to actual brick and mortar locations. And so there's a lot that we can tap into here, and I don't think we're going to let this opportunity slip out of our hands, and we'll see what we can do to make it better for the future, because I think this is what people want. And if I'm wrong, then please let us know.
We are not rushing to get back into the building. That's
Right.
First and foremost. So I do see a lot of telework continuing, and as we said, we're willing to consider new ways and to fight for new policies that might help you do that better. We have had a lot of fun with some of the new opportunities in collaborating across these virtual mediums. I've gotten to know people and their families and their dogs, their
Right.
dogs a lot better than I did beforehand. A lot of star appearances by young toddlers. That's been very entertaining and educational as well. And that's the good stuff. That's what we need to preserve. And the families that got to participate in the Fellows and ECA banquet, that was phenomenal. Aunts and grandmas that wouldn't normally travel to an event held in a banquet hall, but because we held this in a virtual medium, it was all in. And we just need to take advantage of the good opportunities that came from this pandemic, the good stuff that we've learned, and carry that forward and try to keep making a positive difference.
You made a good point, ma'am, about the ECA banquet and Fellows banquet where we had families literally online. And we have our annual awards banquet that's coming up that we were just talking with the team yesterday, and I would just encourage you all to allow your families to have a little peek behind the curtain that they wouldn't normally get. I was telling the team yesterday, I've been in the Air Force 29 years, and I will tell you, very few times have my family members been able to come to an awards banquet or a promotion ceremony or something like that. And the way that we've opened up Zoom and Facebook Live and all these different things, highly encourage as we get ready to do our annual awards banquet here in the coming year, to encourage your family members and those people that wouldn't normally, like General Pringle said, wouldn't normally be able to come to this, have them tap in and see a little bit about how much, how awesome this event is and that banquet is.
Chief, my dad's even out there watching today.
Uh-oh, watch your P's and Q's.
He is, but you deserve that. You work so hard, and we want to honor you. We want to have your families see what you do and let them know we appreciate what they do. Absolutely. To allow you to be so successful for AFRL. We know it's a tough job. There's a lot of mission to get done, and they allow you to be successful. So I agree, Chief. Let's bring them into the tent.
Let's do it.
General Pringle, do we have any guidance yet on COVID-19 vaccination plan?
That is on everybody's mind, Kenneth. Thank you. We do not have guidance out on the vaccines yet, but we're expecting it any minute. It will probably be next week, but we can't expect it to have all the answers at the get-go, and we know it's going to take time to get out all the particulars, to figure out how this is going to be distributed, how the priorities are going to be set. And frankly, we in AFRL are going to be watching and learning from what they distribute out of DOD and and out of the FDA. CDC is what I meant to say. That was right. Right, Chief?
Yes, that's a
CDC?
CDC.
Sorry. Not Food and Drug Administration.
And not the Child Development Center.
And not the Child Development Center, right. Center for Disease Control.
There you go, ma'am.
Oh, it's been a long year, everyone, I promise. But nonetheless, we are going to follow their guidance and wait for it. And so in the meantime, please, please be safe. Please, please take care of yourself. Stay healthy. And the chief said it so well. Follow all the guidelines. Wash your hands. Chief and I are well over 6 feet apart here. Wear the masks like Rosie the elf is here because she's a little closer to me. But honestly, we are just as excited as you are to get this vaccine out there. We know that when it's implemented, it's going to be a safe one, and it will help us all achieve what we need to get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
General Pringle, during the last town hall, you mentioned there was no playbook describing how to conduct business during a pandemic. Is there a playbook now, or is one in development?
Well, in some senses, Kenneth, we're writing the playbook right now, aren't we? We've learned a lot about how we can telework and adjust some of our policies. And you know what I've seen, Kenneth? I've seen AFRL has jumped into this so wholeheartedly that they have trouble turning it off. And so one of the playbook rules has to be turn off and shut down the emails. And I hope you all enjoyed the ixnay on the email, yay, over the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yes, that was awesome.
Limiting it to those hours, which is still an extended day, by the way. It's quite a bit. And you're not obligated to any of that. But we've learned so much, and we've talked about a lot of that already. So I won't repeat it. Chief will come up with the best answer anyway. So I think what am I going to do? Pass the baton or hit the ball over to you, Chief?
Either way, ma'am. I would, I also just want to say, when it comes to, ma'am, you were talking about the I just lost it there, the CDC.
The Center for Disease Control.
Yes. So I lost what I was going to say, Kenneth. I'm sorry. Let me pass it back over to you.
No, it's no problem. If it comes back up, we can go back to you. I'll
Totally
pass the
forgot
ball
about
back your way.
That's funny.
So that concludes the first section. We are now going into the Air Force Science and Technology 2030 implementation. So starting off, General Pringle, has the need for 2030 changed?
That is a burning question. With all the changes that have gone on this year, with the global pandemic, with Accelerate, Change or Lose, some folks might wonder, is the 2030 S&T strategy still relevant? And I absolutely want to emphasize, yes, it is. There is so much that we need to accomplish, and the challenges that we face, this strategy is what's helping us address those challenges, overcome those challenges, and build solutions so that we as an AFRL not only are delivering transformational capabilities in 2030, but it's 2030, 2035, and well beyond. So the S&T 2030 strategy is absolutely still relevant. We still have challenges with the pace of technological change, with more and more technologies that are dangerous or could be disruptive to society, are accessible by so many actors. It's widely accessible. I mentioned the competition for talent earlier, and so much more. So absolutely, 2030 is relevant, and I am so proud of the 2030 PMO team and all they have accomplished in this year to help us achieve that strategy.
General Pringle, If Phase 1 took longer than initially anticipated, are timelines for Phase 2 realistically aligned? And what is Phase 3?
Oh, what is Phase 3? All right, so if Phase 1 took a little bit longer, it took a minute to really carve out how we were going to achieve all the objectives that were laid out in the 2030 strategy. But I have to say again, what a great job the PMO team has done in meeting all those objectives, in saying this is what we need to accomplish for Phase 1 and this is what we need to accomplish for Phase 2. As you all know, we declared initial operating capability, IOC, right around the Air Force birthday in September. That was a little bit earlier than what they had anticipated, but it was absolutely the right thing. We had a governance in place for our Transformational Capabilities Office. We had resources that were being set aside so that we could achieve these game-changing technologies, and we had the office, the people who were there to ensure that we achieved each of those objectives. So now that we're in Phase 2 and we've done so much to build up our Transformational Capabilities Office, Phase 2 is really all about the workforce and the partnerships. And Miss Janning Lask and her team are developing the milestones and objectives, and I suspect my bet is that they accomplish all their objectives for Phase 2 prior to the Air Force's birthday in 2021.
And going a bit further, if I understand correctly, partnerships are a main contributor to Phase 1, but the 2030 mission is now in Phase 2. How will partnerships transition? And will it be called something else now that we are in Phase 2?
That's a great question. So partnerships are really important for deepening and expanding our S&T technical expertise, for expanding our connections and our innovation ecosystem. So I don't necessarily see that partnerships will be renamed, but what we need to achieve is some synergy across the efforts that are ongoing. And again, the 2030 team is laying out the steps that they want to and the markers that they want to achieve. And so we'll learn more as the year progresses, as they deepen their study and sharpen their pencil into what it means to be successful in terms of partnerships. We might be looking at regional hubs, for example. We might be taking more advantage of Afworks, for example. And there's a lot we can do to expand our partnerships, and more will be coming out in the future.
Building that competition, though, is key, right? And allowing that competition to be able to create the best that money can buy, or the best that we can invent or innovate, right? So really appreciate the teams that are doing that.
And General Pringle, kind of going along the same line there, what does Phase 2 of the Air Force Science and Technology 2030 implementation look like?
So Phase 2 is going to be all about the workforce and partnerships. So since we kind of talked about the partnerships a little bit, and Chief, I'll let you be my backup hitter. Nope, that wasn't it.
No, it's the cleanup hitter, ma'am.
Cleanup hitter, okay. He's going to be the cleanup hitter once I start answering this question. But let me talk about the workforce initiatives for just a minute. So under the workforce initiatives, we'll be focusing on building our digital connectivity. We'll be focused on collaborating across directorates, and we'll be focused on the diversity as it supports an innovative enterprise. So Phase 2 is really going to dig deep into these two efforts as well as institutionalize all those activities that the Phase 1 folks did and make sure they carry forward into the future.
And ma'am, I'll clean up just a little bit in the fact that we're talking about a life cycle here in that workforce development, and the life cycle being from the time that they're onboarded to find to make sure that we're getting the proper training, the proper education, and connecting those dots across all the different things that we have going on out there, and we can pull it all together in that workforce dynamic that we have.
And how long will Phase 2 last? What will be the outcome?
So by the end of Phase 2, I suspect it is not time-based, actually. It's going to be event-based, and that's really important, because if we really want to accelerate change, then we need to just, as soon as we meet the objective, then let's move on and declare Phase 2 complete. What I really anticipate at the end of Phase 2 is a well-defined strategy, a well-defined ecosystem, both on the partnership side as well as our human capital strategy. And we'll talk more about that, I think, in a little bit. But we'll have our objectives in place, we'll have our governance processes in place, and we will know the people and the plan and hold it accountable so that we can start executing toward that. We'll probably have already done a couple pilots, and we'll have a very well-defined roadmap going forward. Do you want to add anything, Chief?
I'm just excited to see that, and excited to see the future and what that looks like when it comes to our human capital.
It's really something that we need to get after, because with so much focus on the technology and the innovation side, it's time that we really focus on our workforce and make sure we're doing everything we can, soup to nuts, from K through 12 to graduating Afrl and being an alumnus.
That's right.
And General Pringle, with regard to our command priorities, what does accelerating S&T 2030 implementation actually mean?
All right. Good question, Ken. So Accelerate 2030, part of the reason why it was important to use those words, I think you asked the question earlier, why did Phase 1 take so long? It's because we needed to figure out what we were doing, come together, and really focus our energies on that. And so by accelerating 2030, it really allows us to achieve the milestones faster and get after the business of doing our S&T job in the way that helps us deliver transformational capabilities. So I think I mentioned we achieved IOC a little bit earlier than we had originally anticipated. It also includes things like naming a deputy TEO. This was something I had anticipated doing before the end of the calendar year, by December 31st. But of course, we all know that Dr. Kelly Hammett is acting in this capacity for at least well over a month now. He's old-hatted it, and he's dual-hatted, frankly, but he's doing a great job. So by naming a deputy TEO, he's helping us accelerate that portion of the portfolio as well. Those are just a couple examples. There are lots of others.
And we had to realize that we had to accelerate the 2030, looking at our adversaries and what they're doing out there, and to not just keep pace, but to go beyond, to set the Department of the Air Force up for success. We had to accelerate what we were doing. And so accelerating 2030 is definitely the right call. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I really appreciate the way the teams are out there that have just dedicated so much time and effort and energy to make this happen. It is definitely the right thing for our Air Force and the right thing for our Space Force to do this.
It's really an exciting opportunity, frankly. So AFRL, as we know, is well over 100 years old, and hopefully we're not still having all the policies that were created in the 1917
Let's not act
time
like
frame.
we're 100 years old.
I hope not, but yeah. So, but there are still things that we know that frustrate you. We know you want to be part of something bigger that is hugely impactful to OSD, and there are lots of those efforts ongoing, but we want it to be all of AFRL. We want it to be all of AFRL impacting all of DoD. And I once heard Chief say what his vision for AFRL success is, and that would be AFRL is a household name. Correct. Or you get the stamp on the technology that said made by AFRL. AFRL, you guys are so amazing. There's so much talent out there, and the 2030 types of institutions that the PMO team is creating will really help us get there.
And you all should be proud of it. You should have that AFRL swagger, right? And you should look like George Jefferson for those that are old enough to know who that is. And I want you to just be so proud to be part of this team, because you guys are doing such amazing work.
And General Pringle, what is the time commitment to fully implement the 2030 mission findings?
The time commitment, well, it's more event-based, frankly. That's the bottom line. As soon as we achieve all the objectives of 2030, then we'll declare victory and move on and just start executing and doing the great mission that we do.
That's right.
It's a great strategy, and I can't wait to get there.
If we lock ourselves into time, then that's we need to be event-based so that we don't lock ourselves into a timeline and say we can't go beyond at this timeline. So definitely the right strategy to be event-based and not timeline.
Let's get her done and move on.
That's right.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. So when we do declare victory in the 2030 implementation, how do we know we got there?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think we have a couple ideas of what we will be seeing. First of all, it's going to be exciting. We are going to still have challenges because that's what the world is all about, but we're going to be transitioning a lot of our vanguards, for example, and the war fighters are going to, I know what's going to happen, Chief. I know exactly what's going to happen. You know, Chief often says he didn't know what AFRL was before he got this assignment. But we know we have succeeded when war fighters across the Air Force and the Space Force, they go, I have a challenge. It requires innovation. I'm calling AFRL.
And they know how to get a hold of us.
Yes.
And they know who to connect with. And we make it accessible for those folks to be able to connect with us. So that is success, obviously. To be that household name is obviously our vision for AFRL, to be able, so everybody knows what AFRL is.
We'll be connected across all, more connected across all directorates. We'll have all the tools to crowdsource science, technology, and innovation. We're going to have institutions that support this game-changing technology delivery. There's a lot that we'll be seeing when we've fully implemented 2030 strategy.
And the next two questions we have are follow-ups with the ones we've asked from the last town hall and even earlier. So, the first follow-up question we had is, what are some of the ways that the Science and Technology 2030 strategy is being implemented, either steps that have been taken or are currently happening?
So I'm going to let you take it, and then I'll be your. Well,
the ways that be implemented. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah. So the stand-up of the Transformational Capabilities Office. It's no longer provisional. It's a fully functioning directorate under AFRL. They have people assigned. They have a budget. that is supporting it. They have a governance structure that's at the 2-star level that involves our acquisition executives. It involves our design and strategists from Afwick and the A5 and the S5, by the way. It's not just air, it's air and space, as well as the technology executive officer, whether it's air and space, so across the whole department. That's one really exciting example. Everything that we have done to support the Space Force, for example, is another way that we are achieving these. And I think we'll get to the space stuff in a little bit, Ken, but there's a lot that we've been achieving there. Do you want to add to that, Chief?
Well, I just think just like the Kelly Hammett in his position and what he's done and how we've connected already so fast with the Space Force, even more than what we have, which, like you said, maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that connection piece has grown so much.
And the last follow-up question we have is, has a new Chief Technology Officer been chosen under the 2030 strategy?
No, a new CTO has not been chosen, which is objective 2 under the 2030 strategy. However, the United States Space Force has named a CTIO, a Chief Technology and Innovation Officer, and that's Major General Kim Kreider. And so she is performing that function for the Space Force, which is really in line with the 2030 strategy. The deliberations on the air side are still ongoing, and we should hear more about that in the coming weeks and months.
And that concludes our section here. So the next one is about one AFRL and 2 services. So continuing that conversation on space and the Air Force. The first question we have, General Pringle, is there's been a lot of talk about AFRL's role in the U.S. Space Force. When will AFRL transfer positions to the Space Force?
So AFRL has 700 positions that will be transferred to the United States Space Force, and it's really tied to the implementation of SSC, Space Systems Command, I hope.
Systems Command.
Okay.
Yep.
It's SMC now, but it's SSC should be coming up, and that's expected to be next summer. But those 700 positions will be put on the unit manning document under SSC when it is stood up, and they will have be realigned back to AFRL to perform the science and technology mission, and their operational command, their administrative command will all be taken care of by AFRL. So if you're one of those individuals on a billet, it's going to be seamless. You're going to have the same supervisor, the same mission, the same tasks, and the same chain of command, and all part of our AFRL family going forward.
Right.
Anything to add?
And I just want to add that you shouldn't feel any pain, no harm, right? There should be no pain to anyone that is in that position. Again, it's an opportunity. It's going to be an amazing opportunity for many of our folks. And I'm a little jealous, quite honestly, because it sounds like a lot of fun to be able to be part of this, which we are. Thanks.
So, General Pringle, how will AFRL operate now that it supports both the United States Air Force and the United States Space Force?
So, AFRL we're going to operate as one AFRL supporting 2 services. And frankly, this is something that you have been doing for years and years. In fact, for decades. You've been providing space, science, and technology since the beginning. And I know that will continue going forward, but what we're really trying to do with our One AFRL 2 Services focus is to take a new look at that and ensure that every member of AFRL, whether you're a scientist, engineer, innovator, business professional, that you're thinking about what can we do at our individual or unit level to support the Space Force? Are there new things that we can do? Can we take advantage of the new service that has stood up with very little bureaucracy, with new tools, with new processes, and a new organizational structure. Can we find new ways of getting our business done more efficiently, more innovatively, with more impact? There's just nothing but opportunity in how we go forward in supporting the Space Force.
And what I'd also say is that we, like you said at the beginning, ma'am, everybody or most of the folks in the Afrl were already supporting Space Force in some way, even before Space Force was still Space Command. But now I think what we need our folks to do is even focus more on exactly what am I doing for Space Force, and be able to show that and be able to demonstrate what we're doing for Space Force and take those opportunities that Space Force allows us to take with the less bureaucracy and some of the things that come that are part of being a brand new service. And so again, it's just another opportunity that our folks have to really focus in on what our Space Force needs from us.
Absolutely. So there were a lot of things that I'm just going to keep talking, Ken. There were a lot of things that we did in this area, and I'll have to say hats off to AFOSR for doing a great job with the Space Sciences Summit. They said, you know what, we're going to dedicate a day and look at what the space S&T needs are going to be in 2060. And they created a wonderful agenda, brought in a lot of great speakers, and they re-looked at their portfolios through the eyes of this new service. And it was really well done. I'm really proud of them. We also had the Clean Sheet Summit, which was last month, I believe. And that was an opportunity to look at our processes with fresh eyes and to see Space Force wants to conduct business differently. They want to be more iterative and have more of a DevSecOps approach to innovation. And so we partnered with them. We brought in a wide variety of folks from across the Space Force, including General Kreider. We brought in our acquisition oversight, Miss Baldwin, AQR. We brought in folks from SSC, soon to be SSC, also a variety of folks from headquarters in Colorado Springs. And so we also connected virtually, by the way. So, the Clean Sheet Summit was truly that. Take a blank sheet, look at the processes, look at what the Space Force needs, and build it from the ground up. Compare it to what we're doing and look for ways where we could better innovate.
That's right. It's all about success, right? We just want to push success. That's right.
And General Pringle, who decides research priorities and funding?
Well, that's a really good question. So I am still the DAF TEO, but I do have a deputy TEO, Dr. Hammett, who is the focal point for space. So he will be collecting everything, and it's truly in partnership with our space service counterparts in understanding what their needs are, like General Kreider, and understanding what Colonel Tehan and General Thompson need out at SSC. So going forward, we're all in this together, and frankly, next week, we have a TEO space review where we're bringing everybody together and looking at the portfolio of science and technology that we have, and we will be discussing those kinds of areas and what makes sense going forward and what's really helping us get our war-fighting, innovative, transformational S&T out the door.
And General Pringle, will AFRL split to support both the Air Force and Space Force?
We are one AFRL supporting two services, so I don't see us splitting in any way, shape, or form. It just doesn't make sense at this time. We get more synergy by being together. We have greater impact by leveraging all the capabilities across AFRL as a unified lab. And to quote General Bunch, he likes to say, a technology doesn't know its application until we tell it. And the fundamental nature of science and technology really requires that we keep it all together and that we don't presume too early where that technology would or could go. And so we want to keep it together, and when it's mature and when we've developed it, then we will transition it to the appropriate service or warfighting domain that needs it. Hopefully all of them.
Right, because we've done that even with other services when I think about it, and I think about some of the meetings we've had with I've heard Dr. Roper even say, you AFRL folks, you're the best lab that the Navy has in some cases because we supply so much to our other services. And so that's right, that technology doesn't know what it's going to be used for until we tell it. So, and who knows if it's going to be used for the Navy, the Army, the Space Force, or whoever, because the ultimate goal is success.
And Chief Arnold, how is AFRL preparing to support the needs of both services?
Well, good question, Kenneth. I would say that we already stood up Dr. Hammett and put him in place, and General Pringle made that decision months ago, and I'll tell you that has been probably one of those key things that have connected and really put that focus, and I'll go back to what I said kind of earlier, that focus on the space, what we're doing for space, just like AFOSR just did not too long ago, just like the Clean Sheet Summit that we did. That's what it's going to come down to. That's the important part.
And that concludes our section about 1 AFRL 2 services. So we're moving on to Afworks now. So we mentioned beforehand about Afworks and the acquisition. So General Pringle, we are all aware now that Afworks has transitioned to AFRL. Can you elaborate more on this?
Absolutely, Kenneth. So let's call it AFRL RG, right? So really exciting to have AFRLG as part of our family. I will mention the director of AFRL RG is a direct report to Dr. Roper, and that's where they get their strategic direction. But all the care and feeding and nurturing and housing and partnership and just getting the job done, rolling up your sleeves and making things happen is all AFRL, is all of us, and we are all in. It's really exciting to see how much they have accomplished with the help of so many fantastic people within AFRL, like the Cyber Center of Excellence. Man, what an amazing team that is really the engine under the Afworks hot rod, I guess, right? But man, the Afworks team really needs that Cyber COE engine to get the job done, to get off the starting line and award those contracts. And I don't know. I'm not going to go too far with this car analogy because it's going to just kill me.
Blow up in your face, right?
Yeah, sorry. But there's just so much there. And I have to say the personnel team is really coming through in terms of helping them hiring. We have some new hiring actions, and we'll see AFRL RG really expand in 2021. What a gift. What a wonderful opportunity that they are going to have new positions being added to the books. Yeah. Very exciting. And so it'll keep our personnelists a little bit busy for a minute, but boy, we're going to see some really exciting things and some institutionalization of all the Afworks activities. Next week, of course, we have the Accelerate event, which we're all really excited about. The Secretary of the Air Force is going to be there, Dr. Roper, General Bunch, so many individuals. It's really a great opportunity to see and preview what they're going to be doing in the coming year. They've got a lot in store. Energy, space. They're going to have a lot of discussion on space next week. So if you like space, like our 1 AFRL 2 services does, I would tune in because they have a lot of fun announcements, but I can't let the cat out of the bag.
They are rock stars, and we're so happy that they're part of the family. So I just, again, appreciate the teams that are putting it all together and making this happen. So happy to have Afworks, RG, in part of the family. And they are like a hot rod or a big mud truck. I don't know what the analogy is, but they're
doing so
they are
great.
doing great, and so we really appreciate that.
And you know, they're creating innovation in a way that's new and exciting, that we may have been doing in AFRL for a while, but certainly they're reaching out to the non-traditionals and the entrepreneurs, and they did that by design. And so the hypothesis is maybe by creating this market and industry with the non-traditional partners will turn into something that we can leverage and transition in the Air Force. That is a great opportunity that we haven't tapped in the past.
The next section is about human capital lifecycle systems approach and the strategy behind it. Chief Arnold, can you elaborate on what that is?
Yeah, so I think when we talk about that, I talked about it a little bit earlier. We went on. So Julia Pericott is our lead for that human capital, and like I said earlier, that life cycle in the name, right? Didn't you say that life cycle strategy? It's the life cycle of the strategy for our human capital, from onboarding to how to educate, how to make sure we get the proper training, how we make sure that our folks get what they need so that we can move into success. And we connect all those pieces, because before we would have spots of STEM and CLOs and all these different things. Now we can bring it all together and unify it and get the best bang for the buck out of it.
I think Julia's title is exactly perfect, Human Capital Strategist. And so to have this cohesive approach to our workforce and makes a lot of sense, and bringing together the efforts that are being conducted in engineering, the efforts that are being conducted in DP, those will continue.
Yes.
But we're just having a bit of a synergy and a deliberate approach to taking advantage of connections between them. I do want to highlight it goes all the way to K through 12 STEM education, and tying some of the efforts there to some of the needs that we'll be building in our internship programs, which is run by a different office, right? And to tie those to our onboarding processes, as the chief mentioned, which is run by a different office. And you can see how challenging it gets when we have all these multiple handoffs. And what Julia is doing is ensuring that we're all talking and that we have a deliberate, consolidated approach to the capabilities, to the development. And oh, by the way, once you leave AFRL, you're always part of AFRL, and you get the tattoo right here above your heart, and we're going to be calling you, and we're going to be saying, please continue to think of us fondly in AFRL, be part of our recruiting, help us connect with those universities wherever you end up retiring. You're always part of the AFRL family, and I just really hope you all know that we love you, and we want you to always think of us fondly.
Yes, ma'am.
As well.
Because there's so much good stuff going on out there, and when you look at it, it can be mind-boggling how much good stuff our folks are doing when it comes to STEM, when it comes to all the way through that life cycle, like I was saying. And so to be able to put that all together is basically what Julia is going to be doing. And so it's amazing work. It's awesome work. Something that we needed to do a long time ago, I think, and this is great.
So, General Pringle, you both touched on aspects of this next question, but what is the goal of a centralizing an enterprise human capital lifecycle systems approach in AFRL, and what challenges does this approach solve?
Oh, so the challenges that it solves would be these wonderful activities that are being conducted independently, but bringing them all, having them work in a coordinated fashion. And so integrating the objectives in a synergistic way. And I know that sounds like a lot of flashy words, synergistic and integration and, combining things together, but truly there's a lot of great stuff out there, and we want it to benefit in a deliberate fashion what activities are being conducted in the K through 12 STEM program to have a deliberate tie to the capabilities that we are building in our internships. So having kids do coding or do rocket launches deliberately ties to our objectives as one AFRL, two services. So basically, it just brings an umbrella and a cohesion across all those activities.
Right, and so I won't use the big 15-letter words like you, ma'am, but
too many of those. I'm sorry.
But to me, it's so that we don't recreate the wheel every single time that we go on to a different place or a different, from STEM into the next phase. We're not recreating this all over again, and so we have that central place. And so that's some of the things that it takes care of, is that we don't go try to figure the same thing out that we've already figured out, and so we can move them toward where we need them to be when it comes to AFRL and the objective of AFRL.
So you also touched on aspects of this next question, but what role do AFRL employees play in building out AFRL's human capital approach? And if there's any further, what about inputs from the SLO program, or groups, excuse me?
Can you say that again, Kenneth?
Yes, absolutely. What role do AFRL employees play in building out AFRL's human capital approach? And what about inputs from the SLO groups?
Oh, wow. Well, any AFRL member should be all in terms of helping us generate ideas that benefit our workforce, whether it's telework policies or STEM programs. And I'll tell you, I do get emails asking for, what are the solutions to these problems, or even great ideas. And we take all of those seriously and we look into them. One of the things that we're looking at is how are we supporting kids that are part of our families that need to be homeschooled. And so we've been trying to figure out how can we help there. So first of all, you can help by identifying the challenges that are out there, problems we need to fix, because that's our job. That's why we're here, is to solve those problems, let you do the mission, and we'll remove the obstacles, right, Chief?
That's right.
But also, any of your good ideas, every idea is on the table. Nothing is off the table, and we are in this together, so bring the ideas on. And if you want to roll up your sleeves and help us execute, we can have you join the team as well. So
yeah, and I'd also bring up that, I know you in your question you mentioned SLO, the senior leader offsite, and just like that sounds like, it's senior leaders, right? And so that's not the only place that we need ideas from, obviously. So junior force members, our brand new employees, please let us know. Tell us what we're doing wrong, what you may have seen done differently, in other places you've been, and how we can improve on that human capital. Because ultimately, again, we want to improve, we want to do better. No one wants to make a decision in a glass room. We want input from our folks, and so listening to our folks is what we have to do. And but we can't listen to you if you're not speaking, right? And so we need to hear from you. Our junior force has just as loud a voice as our senior leaders do. So I encourage you to use your voice and to let us know where we need to make change.
I want to add, Chief, if I may. So of course, pitch it back. I'm going to do one more run around the bases. That's why we're doing this forum. So this is the second town hall since I've been here, and it's because we want to communicate with you. And we know that Kenneth's getting questions on his iPhone up there and asking us in real time. That's why I have to ask him to repeat questions, because if I blink, I miss a word. But that's why we're doing this today. Right. We want to know what's on your mind. Text Kenneth, post it in the chat, and let your supervisors know. Take any and every opportunity that you have. Don't be quiet. And frankly, I'd be disappointed if you were. It would mean I want you to be engaged and care enough. You are passionate. And so if you see something, you let us know, because that's why we're here, is to knock down those barriers so you can be the best you that you can be.
Right on.
And to that point, ma'am, we did have a couple questions already come in, so we'll make sure to address those at the end. So please stay tuned to see your question answered. The last one we have here for this section is General Pringle. How does the human capital approach align with the many recent personnel updates, like increased teleworking, flexible schedule options, centralized hiring, and more?
It all fits in together. It's all being stitched in our human capital by Julia Paracat and the human capital strategy approach. So the telework policies that we've mentioned earlier, the centralized hiring, to look at new ways. It's a pilot. It's a small test that we're looking at to see, does it make sense, and we'll learn from it. If it doesn't work, we won't go forward. But in order to compete with the very challenging workforce or hiring environment that we anticipate, we've done the analysis of what it's going to look like in the future. What is industry going to be doing? We're having challenges hiring personnel for our key positions, and we need to ensure that we have the best hiring practices possible. And so like I said earlier, everything's got to be on the table, and we will try it. And it's okay to fail brilliantly. If it fails brilliantly, then we learn from it and we do something different the next time around. So to answer your question, under the human capital strategy umbrella, it all stitches in together. That is the major focus of this phase 2 of 2030, and the milestones and objectives will be rolling out. And it's going to be event-based and not time-based, because the sooner we figure this out, the better.
If we're not going to do it, who is, right? If the Air Force Research Lab is not going to do this, who's going to do it? That is the core of what we do. We got to try things and take the successful things and apply it and revamp and remold or whatever we have to do. But we have to try things. We have to be innovative. If nothing else, we have to be innovative.
And the last section we have here is about people. The first question we have for either of you to kick off is, will diversity and inclusion sensing sessions continue into the new year?
Yes.
Yes. We can both answer that one.
Actually,
Absolutely.
we did it at the same time. Yeah, absolutely. Those have been fantastic. So another opportunity, I guess I'm going. Sorry, Chief, I'll be really short.
They paid the money to see you.
Yeah, free. I'm sorry, it's so disappointing. Except Dad's happy, right? But yes, those are invaluable. They are small sessions with just me, the Chief, and 6 of our very best friends in Afrl. And I love it. We learn about you. We are talking to you and hearing how life is treating you, what's going on in the workforce, what's going on at home. Where do you want to be in 5 years? And how can we make Afrl the kind of place that you want to stay at? Because for some people, this might not be the environment. We haven't built the environment to meet their needs yet. And I just really want to figure out and be the best Afrl that we can be. So absolutely, these sessions are critical to making Afrl better. And I have to say, we're not perfect yet. And so we have to keep doing this so that we learn.
They are so key. I have learned so much about our force just through these sensing sessions. So, what we get out of this obviously is tough conversations. And it is hard to have these conversations. But the more we have them, the easier it becomes. And so just to encourage us to still to talk, because diversity and inclusion is essential to our Air Force and is essential to our AFRL being the best we can be. We can't do it without that diversity and inclusion. So we just, yeah, absolutely. We're going to continue those. And I think we have all the backing of the DoD and the Air Force to continue those. Training and things like that will obviously come later, and we'll figure all that out. But the sensing sessions, absolutely, they're a great thing to do. And so I would encourage our commanders and directors that aren't doing it, or leaders that are out there, supervisors, that you open up those conversations as well, because they're good conversations to have. Like I said, they're not easy. They're tough conversations at times, but your eyes will be opened.
Well, and we frankly can't fix an issue unless we know about it. And so these small groups, we get to hear the hard truth. And then we learn from it. And Chief and I are dedicated to finding ways to make our workforce stronger and to build the best AFRL that we can. And so absolutely, these sessions have been really helpful. They've been great, and they've been from you. So that's the whole purpose, is to know what's on your mind.
And the next question, General Pringle, is we saw an Air Force article about the Air Force hitting record retention levels and maybe considering force management options. What does that mean?
That's a new development, isn't it, Kenneth? So if what is happening is the COVID pandemic is having folks reevaluate what they want to do with their lives. And so, as you mentioned, retention in the Air Force is higher than it's been, and our personnelists have an expectation that a certain will be rotating out, and that affects how many individuals they are bringing in. And so one of the mechanisms, because more people are staying at higher levels, will be reducing the number of people that come in. Of course, that has no impact if you're already in, and that's a good thing. It just affects the number that we're recruiting or that we get through basic military training. Another very easy mechanism that doesn't do any, that's consistent with what people want, is approving waivers to get out of an active duty service commitment. So this is already something the individual has requested. They sent it up the chain to get a waiver so they can get out early. Those are going to be looked at and approved at a higher rate than we would when we needed to have a higher number of people in the service. So those are just two examples, but they make a lot of sense, and they are consistent with what people want.
Right, and there's a few more, but our end strength is congressionally mandated, so we can't go over that end strength number. And so, just like John Pringle said, this is only the second time that this has happened in many decades. The other time was right after 9/11, whenever we had so many people wanting to stay in the force after that happened. And so we had to take some action. And so a couple of the other things that are happening is career job reservation. So CJRs for short. These were around whenever I first came in the military, and basically what it did for our first term airmen is to say that they had to go and make sure that their job was available for their second term, and make sure that there was a slot for them to kind of transition from the first term to the second term. And if there's not, it's not like they're going to be separated or kicked out of the Air Force, but they might need to cross-train into something else where we have maybe a manpower shortfall. And so that would be another way that the Air Force is looking to get after that. And the other way is through selective reenlistment bonuses. So the Air Force has always given bonuses to those hard-to-fill manpower slots, and they're looking at maybe adjusting those or not giving it quite as much, because our manning levels are fairly well. We have done so well since 2015. I believe we've increased our strength about 23,000 folks, to include, close and personal to my heart, in the aircraft maintainers. The maintainers had always been hurting through the 90s and the early 2000s. And in 2015, we were able to level that bubble and get them pretty close to 100% manned.
Yeah.
So great stuff. And this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. I'm so glad that our Air Force is establishing those. We're pushing the limits, and we're establishing those boundaries to being as close to 100% manned as we can be.
And with those force management options in mind, what does that mean for AFRL?
Chief?
Yes, ma'am.
My apologies. That was open to both of you. I meant to state that.
Well, I will tell you.
It's like every airman and space professional. So
Right, it's going to be the same things as we just talked about. I'll tell you that.
Good question, Anonymous.
They're going to be applied the same way to us as AFRL as they are anywhere else. One of the other, I don't know if you mentioned it, ma'am, but being able to transition to the reserve force is another thing that is on the plate too. So making it easier to transition to the reserve force if that's something that's you'd like to do. So we're gonna be in the mix just like any of the other centers or services.
Same.
I had to process.
That was a stumper.
Right. That one had to process for a second.
It's no problem. My apologies. But we may want to get that out there just to clarify. So the last question we have before we move to questions that were submitted during the stream is Chief Arnold. This is a stressful time and one of more isolation. How can we be good wingmen during this time?
Yeah. So resilience, right? I know it sounds like a buzzword, but it comes up every day in my mind. How do we become a more resilient force, and how do we become a more resilient laboratory? Because it's hard times, and like I said at the beginning, this takes us stepping out and getting out of our norms and our comfort zone. It might be comfortable to just close in and be, especially in this time, right, whenever we've got COVID and we're restricted on our movements in a lot of ways and where we can go. But we really have to connect to our folks. We really need to stay connected. I love the opportunities, like I said at the beginning, the opportunities that this COVID has allowed us to have. Zoom and Teams, I don't think I used those more than a handful of times before this COVID era started. And now it's every day, all the time. And I get to see people that I wouldn't typically have gotten to see. I get to talk to folks. I get to interact with folks like I hadn't before. So there's opportunities in that too. So we have to build our resilience. It's a tough time. I get that. There's a lot of things going on. This is obviously it's Christmas season. It's happy season for most, but not for all. And so look out for our wingmen. Look out for your partner. Look out for the people that you work with, and just check in on them, because that's what it's all about. Our folks are the key, right? Our folks and your thought process and what you bring to this workforce is key to our success. And so we need each and every one of you. So reach out.
So I'll just add, I've seen a lot of creativity out there. So AFOSR, for example, has created various fitness groups on MS Teams. And so they check in and check out on their workouts, and that's how they're connecting and ensuring that they're being great wingmen to each other. I've definitely heard about individuals out at Kirtland who are providing meals to their neighbors and making sure that their neighbors are taken care of. There are just so many different ways that we can connect and look out for each other. And I know you're already doing it, but just keep upping your game, because it really matters. And I know some of you might think my emails are a little tedious, and I apologize, but every once in a while it might make somebody smile. So I'm going to keep doing it, and if it makes one person smile and makes them feel more connected, then it's worth it to me.
Yeah, I liked one of the statements in one of your last emails that said you always take the last lap fastest, or you had a friend that always used to say taking the last lap fastest, and we're in that last lap, obviously, of 2020. But I was thinking when I read that, I always take my first lap the fastest, so I'm really looking forward to 21 and be able to start off with my foot on the pedal.
Well, we'll be good running buddies then, right, Chief?
That's it.
Wonderful. So we're here for the last section then. We have a couple fan questions who came in, or I should say live questions during this. So thank you all for submitting these. If any other come up at this time, we'll make sure to address them after the fact. So don't worry, we're hearing you and we're going to make sure it's covered. So the first question we have ties to the United States Space Force. So, General Pringle, with AFRL now providing support to the United States Space Force, how will the AFRL technical directorates, beyond just the Space Vehicles Directorate, support this new customer, given current limited financials and, more importantly, already restricted or already stretched workforce demands with current customers?
Absolutely. So we didn't get a plus up or anything like that, right? But I think that's where next week really comes into play, of course. Next week is the TEO Space S&T Review led by our Deputy TEO, Dr. Kelly Hammett. And the idea there is to open up the AFRL portfolio, look at what's already there, because I'll tell you, the Space Force knows a lot about what AFRL does, but it's really focused on just a few technical directorates. And so by opening up the aperture to the rest of AFRL technical directorates, I think they'll see how much more we have already been doing. So it's about opening up the aperture in terms of their awareness of what we're already doing, getting validation that it aligns with what they need as warfighters in this new domain, and aligning to their priorities. So there might be things that we decide are higher priority and lower priority, and then we'll need to adjust. But we can't do it all. We didn't get new resources, and so it is a matter of aligning to priorities. But I think the Space Force is really going to they're really going to be wowed next week, is what I anticipate.
And can I add, ma'am? And
please.
Just in the fact of we need to hear from you in where those obstacles are. And so if you're, based on the question that I heard, it sounds like we might be saying there's some obstacles out there to making that Space Force a reality in our support of the Space Force. So we need to hear from you in what are those obstacles that you're having, so that we can plan and adjust accordingly, because we don't have all the answers. General Pringle, you're super smart, but I know you don't have all the answers, and you're looking for folks to provide us with the answers.
And the second part of this is, do you see the United States Space Force providing any research and development funds to bring additional AFRL support, and/or do you see areas of AFRL divestment to make room for the Space Force support?
So I do see the potential for the United States Space Force to bring more to S&T and more to AFRL. I know that AFRL is going to be one of their customers, and I think they're trying to keep open their aperture up to the whole science, technology, and innovation ecosystem as well. There might be areas that we see as lower priority, but those haven't been decided yet. And so I think next week will be the first step in seeing how closely we are aligned. And I think it's a lot higher than what we've anticipated in the past.
And the next question we have for the workforce, another United States Space Force question, so General Pringle. It is unclear the amount of upkeep we'll be providing to the United States Space Force. As a support function, our office has met with personnel in the United States Space Force, and there are things that lead us to believe we will continue to provide some support to those individuals and offices that transferred over.
Yes.
But still unclear to the workforce what that may be. So what will that support be?
What will the support that we that's a microphone, that we, Afrl, will be provided to our teammates who are the 700 on the SSC books. We are going to be tracking their OPRs. We're going to be making sure that they are progressing. We will help them with the hiring decisions. We are going to be helping them with promotion decisions and all the normal things that we have been doing. So we're not decrementing any of our functional directorates because those individuals are now on the SSC books. It's all one AFRL supporting 2 services. So all those same things will be continuing. AFPC is still supporting the United States Space Force. So it makes a lot of sense that we're going to be doing the same.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, there should be no harm. You shouldn't, we are going to take care of you. And if there's any thoughts out there that are different than that, then let me just squelch them, because we are taking care of our teammates.
Everyone.
Whether that's those folks going over to be on the books for Space Force, or if you're on the books for the Air Force.
Yeah, we'll be approving leave. We'll be approving vacation and time cards. It's a do no harm.
The next question we have is about COVID. So, Chief Arnold, during COVID, do you think there's any way to make exceptions for things like remote activation or extension of CAC renewals, especially for those who are high risk?
Potentially. I could see, again, those are great ideas to bring up. And so we'll take that and we'll see, if that's a specific need that we have out there. Absolutely. We can see what we can do about that. I just can't make any promises, but those are the type of ideas or type of thoughts I'd love to hear, because we need to get after them. I hadn't thought about that.
And it sounded like ramen noodles is what I heard in part of the question. But one thing to keep in mind is the local conditions of COVID vary for every city and state and even neighborhood, right? So that has to be locally executed. And so whatever the ramen noodle idea was, as
It is lunchtime.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it.
The next question we have is about Afworks. While we all want to support Afworks and believe in their mission, they're definitely under-resourced right now. This is putting a tremendous strain on parts of AFRL. How long do you see it taking for them to get the resources needed to perform their mission?
Yeah, and we can't get them resources soon enough. So I mentioned earlier that they will be getting new billets to support their mission. And by the way, Afworks is AFRL. Afworks is AFRL RG. And so we are,
They're not they, they're we.
Yes, I guess that's what I was going to say. So you're right. We are all under a lot. It's a big challenge, and we are doing a lot under this new mission set. But I will say we are already taking steps to do things like allocating dedicated personnel, we're hiring a lawyer to support them, but we've already been matrixing in legal support there. And of course, all the CIBR COE has been phenomenal in supporting them, and but more resources are coming. Funding and billets are coming soon, absolutely. And we just reapproved a couple things just today, actually, this morning.
And the last question we have is about One AFRL 2 services. So we've all been hearing about One AFRL and the AFRL Enterprise. What does this actually mean, and how is it different from our current state?
Okay. So from our current, or how about let's just say our previous state, right? So when AFRL only had one service to support, the Department of the Air Force or the Air Force, then Space Force was just, it was United States Space what was the old thing? The major command.
Space Command? No.
Space Command, I guess. Yeah, it was just a year ago, but already it's a distant memory. So it was treated more like a major command and not like its own unique service with unique warfighting requirements, etc. So that is the major aspect that is different. It's got an organizational structure. It's got a combatant command that is dedicated to this warfighting domain. We need to expand our relationships with these new organizations that are being stood up. It's getting new personnel. It's building a strategy to organize, train, and equip warfighters to serve in the space domain. So there's truly a lot. It's not just the Aerospace Vehicles Directorate that supports the Space Force. It's not the traditional directed energy or sensors, but it's all of us, and looking for new and different ways where information, AFOSR, as we mentioned earlier, human effectiveness, all of these are all in to support the Space Force and make it successful. Chief, do you want to add anything?
No, ma'am, you hit it all.
Was it a home run?
It was a grand,
maybe a bat?
A grand slam.
I don't even know what a grand... Is a grand slam where all the bases are loaded?
It's the best, yeah.
Okay. I was going to say it was just a base hit, but I'm good with that.
We're working on her.
Clean up hitter. That's a hard one for me for some reason.
And you did touch on it, but the last part of this question was, does this mean any changes for the technical directorates?
Does it mean changes for... Well, technical directorates are always changing anyway, right? So it's part of what you do. You're innovating already, and I am sure you've been looking at your portfolios and already thinking about what does this mean to us. And so it could be, it probably does, and I can't imagine it doesn't mean change.
Right.
But
we have to change.
Yeah,
if we're not changing, we're not growing. So we have to continually change for what the needs are.
And if we didn't change during COVID-19, we would be in a world of hurt right now, right?
Just think if we wouldn't have done anything different when COVID-19 hit, how far behind we would be. So we have to change with what the environment, gives us and what what's out there.
So piggybacking on the baseball analogy, I know we're rounding third and going home. So I open up the floor, General Pringle and Chief Arnold, for any closing remarks you have before we end the stream.
You first, Chief.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Well, first, thank you again. I know I started off with thank you, but I'll end with thank you too. Thank you to the team that set all this up and did this amazing. Thank you to all you guys that are out there listening and asking those tough questions. Continue to ask questions. This isn't a one and done. This isn't just we're doing this once and this is it. We want you to continue to ask questions and not wait till the next time we do a town hall to ask a question, but ask questions before. I am so proud of our Afrl and what you guys do each and every day. My mind is blown when I look at all the different programs and the super smart people that we have that are doing amazing work. I'm reminded of a story of my grandfather, which I want to just tell real quick. Thank you for giving us a little extra time for closing comments, because I might take an extra minute here. But my grandfather, my last remaining grandfather, who was 95 years old, served in World War II, and he just passed away from COVID just a week and a half ago. But one of his things, whenever we would get together a lot, being his only grandchild that served in the military, is he loved to talk about his 2 years, 9 months, and 10 days that he served during World War II. And it became apparent to me after about 20 years of service myself that every time I got together with my grandfather, he wanted to talk about that 2 years, 9 months, and 10 days that he served in World War II, or he wanted to talk about his family. That was all we talked about. And so about 20 years into the service, I stepped back and reevaluated. You know what? this man is now in his 90s, and that's the time that he wants to talk about. That's the stuff he wants to talk about. That was the highlight of his life, that 2 years, 9 months, and 10 days. And so I sometimes think, am I doing everything I could do to make this the highlight of my life, this time I serve? The time that you serve or in our AFRL or in our Air Force or in the Space Force is limited. And so what I'd say is take every opportunity to make this really the highlight of your life, because when we are all retired and rocking grandbabies on the front porch, they're going to want to know about your time that you served in the Air Force Research Lab. They're going to want to know some of the cool things and great things that you did. And so, apply that. Think about that. Think about what you're doing today so that you can go even that extra stride to make sure that our folks are taken care of, that you're doing the right things to make sure that our Air Force is set up for success, and really appreciate what you do each and every day. Thank you.
That's hard to top, isn't it? Oh, I'll be really short because I just love that story. I feel so lucky to be a part of AFRL, and I hope that each of you are grateful for the opportunity that we have to make an impact on the nation that counts. You are making an impact that affects the future, and nothing could be more important than what you do each and every day. And nothing could be more important for the chief and I than to facilitate your success. In 10 years, or in, I'm not going to be 90 until another, 81 years maybe? No, that's not true. But tomorrow, I guess, we just subtract a year, right? So whenever you're going to be turning 90 and reflecting back to this time on Afrl, you're going to be living with the results of the technologies, the science technology, and innovation in all aspects of it. If you're a personnelist, you're affecting human lives. If you're in contracting, you are ninjas in bringing capability to the forefront. You know what you do makes an impact. As Theodore Roosevelt used to say, there is no greater gift than to have the opportunity to work hard at work worth doing. And absolutely, that's what AFRL does. We are lucky and thankful to be a part of this wonderful team. We felt strongly that we needed to communicate with you and hear from you and let you know how much we care about you, how much we care about your success and your health and your happiness. And Chief and I just really want to wish you a very happy holidays, a very healthy one. Stay strong, stay healthy, and come back ready for an amazing, excellent 2021. Kenneth?
I want to thank you both on behalf of AFRL and all of our viewers for taking the time to share your expertise and knowledge with us. So everybody who's watching, please feel free to watch this after the fact when we save the video on Facebook, and it will be uploaded on YouTube as well for your viewing pleasure. So we want to thank you again for taking part. Stay safe and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.